Hey, Washington County, I have to talk to you about something that's urgent and timely and will definitely affect your basic freedoms in this county on what you want to do with your property, as well as how much that property is going to cost you in the form of property taxes. So on Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday, October the 7th, at 6:30 p.m., I need you at the Courthouse Square in Salem so that you can stand up for your rights. This Tuesday is a hearing on the proposed subdivision ordinance that would be added to the county's planning and zoning ordinances. Now, the things that I personally do not like, I'm going to share with you. There are other things that may concern you even more. There are a couple of things in there that are pretty common sense, but I don't think that we need ordinances in order to accomplish those things and to protect consumers. So first, courthouse, 6:30 p.m. We need everybody there. Like literally, bring your kids, bring your family, bring your grandparents, anyone that this is going to affect. Because one of the main things that this affects is if you are a family that has some acreage and you want to have another home on that acreage, if you want to build something for the kids, if you want to build a granny flat, like a little tiny house or an addition to your home, in order to take care of your aging parents. There are definitely things in this that are going to restrict your ability to do that. Now, I think that one of the motivations behind this is that the way property taxes work is that different parcels have different zoning. Different zoning creates different opportunities and tax values. So agriculture is the lowest amount of taxes that we have. Then residential is a little bit higher. Commercial, industrial, all of those things happen. So just as a side note, if you've never understood the Indiana property tax system as it is now, if you have a $100,000 house and you personally live in it as a resident, you're going to get a homestead deduction, and you're also going to be taxed at 1% of that assessed value. The assessed value may not be the selling price, it might be close, but it's not required to be. Secondarily, if you are a renter, you'll be really interested in knowing that one of the reasons why your rent is so high is because when a property is a rental property, it does not get the homestead deduction. So that means there's a much larger charge for taxes. Plus, this is ridiculous, but plus, rental properties are charged 2% for property taxes. So, rental homes are really no different than just about any other business. If your landlord has a $1,000 mortgage payment that he has to make every month, they're probably going to be charging you $1,200 or $1,300 a month. What a lot of people don't know is when they move out of their primary home and they leave it as a rental, it'll take a year or two, but your homestead deduction is going to fall off and then the taxes are going to double. So they may have agreed to rent the home to you for $1,200 or $1,300 a month because their payment is $1,000 a month. But 12 to 24 months later, their payment could jump to $1,300 or $1,400 a month. So if you've ever wondered why all of a sudden your landlord is, going crazy, it's actually because the state is charging them so much. Now, 3% is the tax rate for apartment complexes, industrial, commercial. So they really stick it to people that are business owners trying to make a living. Of course, that affects the really big business owners, which we might have less sympathy for. So when you take your family's property and you subdivide it, what happens is that creates a new plot, a new parcel number, and a new tax scheme. I don't want to get too detailed on this, but I just want to explain to you that takes that property from agricultural land to a residential purpose, and they can start adding charges onto that based on the assessed value of that property as a residence instead of as agricultural land. So that's really big. Now, another change that's coming to this to the subdivision ordinance that is proposed, this is not happening yet, but there's a public hearing on Tuesday. This is why you must show up. When it's a public hearing, if it passes through the commission, and my name's Lucy Brenton, should have said that at first. I'm the newest member of the Plan Commission. I came on in August. We didn't have a meeting in September. So this October meeting is actually only my second meeting as a member of the Plan Commission. So I'm trying really hard to be, simple and clear and accurate with this when I'm just a newbie myself. So if it passes out of the Plan Commission, and by the way, almost every member of the Plan Commission is in favor of this, And I think a lot of it, well, certainly some of it, is because it will feather their own nest. They stand to make money off of this. So this is just one of those political things that you need to understand happens. You get caught in the crosshairs. So try not to make this video too long, and I'm already over 5 minutes because I gave you a lesson on property taxes. So currently in Washington County, we have had subdivisions that have been created. One particular company comes to mind, Indiana Land Company. Perhaps you've even bought a piece of property where they come in and buy big family farms. In fact, there's an online auction for 189 acres in 6 different tracts over on Case Chapel Road. I saw that recently. So when they buy these big tracts, of course, they want to buy by the court, sell by the shot, good business strategy. But what's been lacking is their commitment to infrastructure, to making sure that the roads that are put in there can actually, handle cars. So there are some basic things that are not in the subdivision codes currently. So currently, as I understand it, I'm going to go back and read the whole thing. Maybe I'll make a follow-up video. As I understand it right now, the standards are very, very low for somebody that wants to come in and do a subdivision. And so later on, school buses are apparently having a hard time coming in and turning around. Another thing that creates some issue there is that our county guys, shout out to the Washington County Transportation and Highway Department, when we get big snows, you want those school buses to be able to access those roads so that your kids can get on the school bus. You want to be able to exit the neighborhood and be able to go to work. So what's happened is they create new roads, but those roads may not necessarily be county owned. They may not be the responsibility of the county, and therefore it's not the county's job to come in there and push that snow out of your way. So at that point, you should be considering, some neighborhood association, even if it's not formal homeowners association, because we hate HOAs around here. That's why I'm sitting with a cornfield to my back, because I don't want to be in an HOA either. So that's another thing. Now, the attitude of a lot of people that get into politics is they like to make rules for you that won't affect them. And so one of the rules, and this goes back to the big, kerfuffle in January, right? When everybody found out that there was going to be this new comprehensive plan. Because you showed up, it got shut down. Hundreds, probably 500 or 600 people in the county showed up to the auction house, America Auction House over near Walmart. And because so many people showed up, the commissioners that were in favor of getting these things passed and made into law very quickly suddenly realized that they had a tiger on their hands. And you, the public, are the tiger. I'm the tiger. But we don't get to be the tiger unless we show up. So if you want your property taxes to go up, if you want restrictions on your property to keep you from easily giving it to your grandkids without a lot of monetary investment, a lot of charges, making it as easy as possible to divide your property in between your family members, then you definitely need to come to Tuesday's meeting. I'm going to be there at least an hour early on the square, so I'll be there answering questions until the meeting actually starts. The meeting that I was involved in, which was the first Tuesday in August, I think it was August 2nd, but I'm not sure. I'll try to link it below because these meetings are now live streamed, but you still need to show up in person. I understand some people can't because of work, but if you don't show up in person, they don't see the show of force. It doesn't become real to them that there's oppositions. They don't care about petitions because you signing a petition is just kind of not even an action, right? People can make up petitions. I mean, it wouldn't be right. It might even be fraud. I don't know, but I would never create a petition and then put a whole bunch of names on it of people that didn't actually sign it. So those really have limited impact on politicians. They pretty much don't care. But what they do care about is they care about you showing up in person and being civil and being polite and being determined. We don't need shouting. We don't need, we don't need anger. We don't need cussing. It's up to us to create the civil discourse that shows that there are more of us than there are of them. I mean, right now, less than a dozen people on the Plan Commission, and then once it gets to, let me tell you how this happens. So if it passes on Tuesday night, then it would then go to the commissioners for a vote on that vein, one of the things that would cost you a lot of money, I'm talking thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars if this were to go through. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do this. I actually think this is a great idea as long as it's voluntary. When you're doing a real estate transaction and you're buying property, you need a survey. And that survey is going to protect you because it's going to become part of your closing package. It becomes part of the title insurance. But if you don't get a survey done, then the seller is not guaranteeing to you what that property actually is. So you can find yourself in boundary disputes with your neighbors. I'm lucky I had a great neighbor, and when he and I were curious about, where the meets and bounds of our property were, we got out the deed and we walked it together, and with a metal detector, we found, it actually kind of looks like a meat thermometer. It's a little circle with a stake in it. And we actually found the ones between our property, and we were both happy to do that. But, you may have a neighbor that's not a nice neighbor. I don't want to elaborate. So when you buy a property, it's a really, really good idea to have a real survey and have a survey, especially if it hasn't been done before. You may be able to check the public records. Sometimes this ends up in the public records. And if you sell property and you get a survey on it, go put that in the public records for the next person, because it is very expensive for a real surveyor to come out and survey your property. Now, if you're buying a production house, a little, Vinyl Village mini McMansion house, or something downtown, or in the center of the city that's been there for 100 years, then you probably don't actually need a survey. The boundaries have been there for ages. It was plotted out a long time ago. You're probably okay. But if you were buying anything, acreage at all, I really recommend you do that. Now, me recommending it is one thing, the government forcing you to do it is another. And the government of the county, the people on the Plan Commission, and I'm actually against this. I think I may be the only one against this provision, to force you to get a survey when you buy or sell your property. So I think it's wise to do so, but I don't think government has any business telling us. If people want to be stupid, then sometimes they need to learn from their mistakes. So I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I'm going to tell you my best advice is to get a survey. And my best recommendation for freedom is to not have the government dictate it to you. You know what happens when government tells you you have to do something is that it always gets more expensive, and there always ends up being one or two people that do all of it. So it becomes a windfall for somebody, and it also becomes more expensive every single time. So those are the provisions that I'm concerned about. The restriction of you being able to divide your property or just build another house on your property and do what you want it, and then add those houses, those structures onto your property. They're wanting to restrict and control the way that you do that, even within your own family. And I think families should have an absolute exception. Maybe there's a compelling reason, and you can come and voice your opinion on Tuesday. If you come to me early, I'll be on the commission, at the desk at 6:30. So I'll have the opportunity to share what you tell me. I'm not sure if there's going to be any public comment available, even though this is a public meeting to release the subdivision to the public. I believe those documents are online. If I can find them online for you easily, I'll go ahead and put a link. So also watch the link. I know these meetings can be really boring, but they get super, super interesting when somebody wants to tell you how big of a piece of land you have to give your nephew because they want to live on a corner of your property. Maybe you only want to give them a half an acre, and that's fine because, there's municipal water and there's municipal sewer, but the county's going to make you give an acre. Most of the Plan Commission members want to do 2 acres as a minimum. Well, I think that's patently ridiculous. They also want to restrict your ability to decide the type of housing that you can live in. In other words, a lot of people here, and I consider myself to be very poor also, I don't have a lot of money in the bank, they're trying to restrict your ability to choose the type of housing that is appropriate for your family. Most people already know that there are certain people in this county that don't want you to be able to bring more single wides or even double wides. I live in a double wide. I used to live in a Vinyl McMansion up in Fishers. I like living in my double wide better where, I'm not 6 feet from my neighbor. And if you live here, you probably do also. So yeah, I know this is getting long. I apologize. I'll try and make like maybe a little synopsis underneath for those who are like TLDR, too long, didn't read. So right now, as I understand the current planning and zoning laws, if you have to take care of your elderly parent or another family member and you want to add on to your home, you're going to need a permit to do that addition. Now, there have been people that have added on to their home before, or even built a small separate building, like a little granny flat or a tiny house, and they were told that after their loved one no longer needed care, that building would have to be moved or dismantled. That's freaking crazy. I'm not tearing down anything that I build. I mean, how much does that cost? But they're gonna be like, yeah, sorry, your dad died, Lucy, but you have to tear down the tiny house he was living in. And I mean, gosh, how devastating is that? And I'm not putting that out there like my dad's still alive. I'm really grateful for that. I probably anyway. So your restriction to live the way that you want to is certainly in these subdivisions. Now, the things that people find that they might find beneficial is putting in some restrictions and guidelines for when a company, like a big corporation, comes in and they want to subdivide, somebody's old farm, and they want to take that 100 acres and turn it into, 50 to 100 plots of land that people can buy and build their own house. And you know it, buy by the court, sell by the shot. In the past, those companies have not done proper drainage. They haven't, as I mentioned, the road problem earlier. So there might be some compelling reason to put restrictions on corporations that are going to do a certain number. Like if you're going to do, 10 plots or less, maybe, ooh, I see the moon in the background. That's so cool. If there's a corporation that's going to do a certain amount, then maybe that's a compelling reason. But for myself, I have 10 kids and I've got grandkids. So if it's a family involvement, if I am just somehow successful enough to get 100 acres and I want to give each of my family members 3 or 5 acres, then I don't want the government coming in and telling me what my drainage needs to be. My compelling interest to do the best thing for my land that I own, that I bought, that I paid for, that I work, that's all on me. And government should not be telling me what I'm doing. And they shouldn't be telling you either. So I'm going to kind of summarize, and if you're still here after 18 minutes, God bless you. Come shake my hand on Tuesday. I would love to meet you in person. But let's band together and let's make sure that we stay free in Washington County, because there are interests that are trying to take away your property rights right now. And the most insidious way to do this is through planning and zoning, because it all looks like it's for a good reason, but we know that the road to hell is paved with good intentions.